So I want to start here. You may have heard of this place before, the Dead Sea. Have you heard of the Dead Sea before? So if you know anything about the Dead Sea, you may know that it's in the Middle East. You may also know it's right next to the country of Israel. Notice that there's a guy here who is in the Dead Sea, and notice what he's doing. He's floating, but what do you notice about the way he's floating in the Dead Sea versus how a person in the lake around here might float or in the pool? Yeah, could you just lay on the lake like that and hold up a newspaper? No, we would have to have a life jacket on or something like that. Notice how easily he's floating. He's floating higher in the Dead Sea. Yes. Why do you think he's able to do that? Yes, the water in the Dead Sea is full of salt. In fact, that's the reason they call it the Dead Sea. There's so much salt content in this body of water that there is nothing that can survive it. Now, there are a few what we call extremophiles. They're microscopic organisms that really like these extreme conditions and can survive it. Nothing else, hardly at all, can survive in this. There's so much salt in this water. The reason there's so much salt in the Dead Sea is that unlike other bodies of water where there's fresh water flowing in all the time and fresh water flowing out, like in our lake, we've got water coming from the North Fork of the Holston River, and then it flows on out of the lake into the South Fork of the Holston River, and then eventually to the Tennessee River. So we've got water constantly, fresh water coming in. The Dead Sea doesn't have that. Water flows in, but there's no outlet. And so what happens is, as the sun heats the water, all the dissolved salt that's in that water, the water evaporates into the air and the salt gets left behind and it gets saltier and saltier. You saw what happens with the crayon in the salt water. It floated where it didn't float in regular water. Look at these pictures here. Look at the next one. Now, notice that there's a girl in this one. Notice she looks like she's floating on a float. She's that high up in the water. Look up in the top here. This looks like it might be ice. It's not ice. What do you think it is? It's salt. There's so much salt in the water that as that water evaporates, the salt does not float in air, right? So it stays behind. Here's another picture. Now, this is, I told you, it's a beautiful place. Look here at the rocks here on the coastline. As the water comes in, it's got salt dissolved in the water. The rocks get wet. The sun heats that water. The water goes into the air as gas and leaves behind the salt. Notice how the rocks are covered with that salt. Oh, it's cool. Now, this picture here is still the Dead Sea. This is a branch, and you can see as the waves hit it, and it keeps getting layer after layer of salt on it as the water evaporates. I really think it's cool when you look here. Do you see the sand here? The ripples of the waves as it evaporates? Look at it. It's in that same shape as the water evaporates. Leaving behind.
That looks like a water slide.
And then look at this guy here. This picture is nice and clear. You can see, look how his feet are. But now, if you were at the pool, would you be able to float like that? No. So that tells us that the density of the water in the Dead Sea is a lot greater. Okay, so if you wanted to learn how to swim, this is the place to go. It's going to be a lot easier to swim in this water, right? You're going to be more buoyant.